it being open source and decentralized is, and I read this one article and it was about that. Okay, you know how like the corporations are looking how to automate labor and to get their stock up, and all this kind of stuff that they do. It's like what's happening right now with on the other side is that with the DAO and other similar stuff is where they're looking to automate the management, the middlemen, and take them out of the equation, and which is important because, like what you're saying, you don't have these backdoor deals anymore. You don't have playing favoritism or them actually doing all these kind of shady things that we know for sure that they've been doing, and that it's all out in the public. Like you can see, okay, it's controlled by this and this person, and they're doing this and this with it. So yes, there's a lot of but that's with anything. There's a lot of risk and reward to everything, but at least here it's a little bit more fair and balanced. It's a little bit more effective, and like I said, it's right now it's you're saying like a social experiment, but it's important for us to experiment with this because this is already making the old world obsolete, and we're right now we're at this cusp of how do we design this, and then from designing it we got to do these social experiments, and then we have to kind of course correct. And I think that's a lot of importantness of what's happening is that the self-correctingness of what's going on. You could self-correct it, and you should always keep on self-correct it. And I think the more people, like more smart minds and more communication, the better overall the system is going to be, and that we are finally going to hopefully, and this is where I'm a lot concerned about, is that we have this opportunity to write a new story, a new way of going about things, and it's either going to be controlled like by the other people, like, the mainstream and the corporations. They're already trying to frame things different ways and this and that, or by the majority of the people, and keep it open source and decentralized, and that showing the people that yes, it might be a little bit of work, it might be, but in the long run, this is the more effective way of doing stuff. This is the way that it should be run. And like I like using that word, that it makes the way everything's been doing up to this point obsolete. That's what it doesn't come down to right or wrong. It just makes that obsolete. This is the better way of going about doing stuff. And
and we have yet to see what the results will be. And this is why it's an experiment, because there will be some problems that will need to be solved. There will be some unforeseen hurdles that will happen along the way. And this is a really beautiful thing about trading, right? Since I really started to trade cryptocurrencies professionally, it's made me a lot more objective and neutral as an individual and in my perspective. I know some people think that trading is kind of predatory, and it's a zero-sum game, and everyone's just trying to take other people's money and whatever, and you can get all kinds of shenanigans, and that's one side of the coin, right? But again, being objective, there's also another side, right? And you don't have to be a shark to be a good trader. You can try to trade and contribute value, but that's another story. But I always kind of look at both sides of the coin, because as a trader, I have to always look at both possibilities and plan for both possibilities. So I create both scenarios. I create what's the bullish scenario, as in what's the most optimistic scenario of it working and being viable. And then I look at what's the disaster scenario, what's the bearish scenario, what are the potential problems that may arise that can completely destroy the project, right? So as far as some of the positives that can come out of the DAO, it can, like you said, it can prevent a lot of mismanagement, take away a lot of these like fiduciary responsibilities or trust in a third party. It can eliminate a lot of the secrecy that happens in the financial world, in the corporate world, so on and so forth. Now, the other side of the coin, if I were to try to look at, what's the potential disaster that comes out of this? Well, there's also such a thing called tyranny of the majority, right? And if anybody spent any time on social media forums like Reddit, you'll see a hell of a lot of trolls who's only looking out for their own self-interest, and things can get really, really heated and nasty sometimes is when you have a difference of opinion, right? It's all fine when you're on social media and there's no money at stake, right? We could all get along, but as soon as we all have money on the line and it all comes down to like who's voting on what and like are you going to get a return, and like as much as there's the altruistic element of this of changing the world and the philosophy and all that stuff, there's also the greed element as well, that people are trying to make return on investment on this, and we're going to see some conflicts arise out of this as well, because it's human nature. And here's the thing, we could cut out the middleman, right? But we can't stop the inherent corruption within ourselves. We can, but we're all corrupt to some extent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our own shadow side and stuff, and if that's not managed properly, if we don't manage that within ourselves and learn to respect each other as individuals, then no technology in the world is going to solve our problems, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the government right now, and there's this old saying that the people get the government that they deserve, right?
Yeah.
And that sounds harsh, but you see people vote, they fall for the same old trick and pony show. Like I pull my hair out seeing people fall for this bullshit year after year every time you get these elections. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the American elections right now. It's a complete joke. It's a clown show, okay? And people are getting so caught up in this. I mean, ask me if I have faith in the average individual to make the right decision. I don't know, man. Like sometimes when you get mob mentalities, you can also get lynch mobs too, right?
Yeah. Everybody just gets in the. Oh, but that's another point that I really want to try to work on and communicate for me personally, and this is kind of what I think we're going to do on the show on Saturday, which I'm really interested in, is we're talking about social contracts. But what I brought up in another show, we did this Imaginarium show, and what the Imaginarium was about using your imagination to kind of like recreate yourself and recreate the world and all this kind of stuff like that. And I think too, what you were saying is that we it's fine that we have these new tools, this new structure, technology, but it all boils down to us as an individual, but also to then us as the collective, that if we have all these new opportunities, because we do have all these technology, we have all these tools, we have all this knowledge, but what's stopping us is ourselves. And if we can't get out of that old mindset of how things were run before, we're just gonna repeat the old story. And that's just been happening to us up until this point. We get democracy, but then the U.S. democracy ends up just like the old kind of tyranny. Select few are running the show, and the other people just kind of give up their power. And that this is what the real work is. That how do we get enough people to really get, like, for me and myself, I know the struggles within me and myself is like, and it has to start with the individual, is like trying to get out of that old mindset, that old way of thinking, and then reintegrating some new mindset of how you envision what you want out of your life first, and then how do you go about doing it, but also too, how do you help other people? What you're saying about what you really like is new people asking you questions. How do you empower them? Because if they get empowered, then that's better for the whole chain of humanity, and this is something that's a real struggle, because I hear a lot of like what Scenario's doing, and other especially with the show. The show's been crazy because I've been getting these opportunities to do different things, and I go and I like what they're saying, but I'm like, also too, we got to get out of this mindset, because we're all kind of about our own we want our project to change the world. We want this kind of like ego thing, and that we talk about the philosophy of it, but then it kind of rubber hits the road where we kind of have our own little shadow. We have our own little ego that we kind of don't want to totally give up. And it's not that the ego is bad, but there's also this point where I like the Eastern philosophy because I'm into it, is about detachment. And detachment doesn't mean that you ignore it. It means that you experience it fully, so you can let go of it when you need to let go of it. So like with your ego, you're fully aware of your ego, and sometimes you got to say, hey, you need to take a back seat, because you have to do things that kind of go against yourself. Sometimes you gotta get over yourself sometimes and say, hey, and I always kind of joke with myself. It's like I call it Daniel. So like now I have these two little parts of myself, SatoriD and Daniel. And every now and then, Daniel is the little shithead that tells me, this can't be done, or this, like, the naysayer, and sometimes that's good. You have to look at both sides of the coins, but sometimes to move forward, I gotta tell Daniel, hey, you little shithead, get back there and stop creating problems for me. And just keep, but that balance is really hard, and this is something that is important with all this new technology and these new possibilities that.
All right, so my website is cryptohustle.com. On this website, there's all kinds of guides on how to get started with Bitcoin, and I also put a special emphasis on the markets. So it's geared towards beginners, crypto enthusiasts, investors, and traders. Cryptohustle.com.